A vampire soulmate romance written by Clara Nightshade. Prologue. They said the Wolf King was dead. They lied. Evelyn Blackthorne's husband, Caelum Fenrir, vanished in a storm of blood and snow, leaving her with a half-wolf son and a kingdom that wanted them gone. For 2 years, she mourned him, until the night she found him alive in the siren city of Merodeep. But the man before her was no longer the mate who had vowed her forever. He was a stranger with her husband's face, stripped of every memory they had built together. A king without a crown. A wolf without a pack. Determined to bring him home, Evelyn embarks on a perilous journey through cursed valleys, rebel cities, and the shadowed gate of the netherworld itself. But enemies are closing in, wolves who will never accept a human queen, and a darkness from Caelum's own bloodline that wants him lost forever. To save her mate, Evelyn must make him fall in love with her all over again, before the bond they share is consumed by war, magic, and the hunger of the Fang of Ice. One mate for life. Until death, and not even then. Before we begin this tale of love, danger, and destiny, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you'll never miss the next chapter of Evelyn and her Wolf King's journey. And now, let the snow carry us to Fenrir Vale. Snow penned runes on the road to Fenrir Vale, and Evelyn Blackthorne read them. The wind had teeth, it bit through her cloak. Snow penned runes on the road to Fenrir Vale, and Evelyn Blackthorne read them. The wind had teeth, it bit through her cloak. Rowan slept on her back, warm as a banked ember, his small wolf ears tucked beneath a knitted cap Lyra called ferociously adorable. Evelyn had stitched its felt fangs in little hollow, pretending steadiness, pretending she was not hunting a ghost. Not a ghost. She chased a man of blood and breath, a king who had kissed the salt from her eyelashes and sworn himself to her life. Caelum Fenrir, husband, mate, father. Your jaw is doing that thing again, Lyra said, trudging beside her, silver hair streaked violet beneath a wolf fur hood. Like you're chewing the horizon for answers. I'm chewing the cold, Evelyn said. Answers can wait until the pass. Spectres hollow, Lyra murmured. They say it borrows voices. Few cross the hollow in winter, fewer with a child. But the pass shortened weeks to days, and days mattered when you chased the sliver of a chance that a man with amnesia might remember the scent of your skin. Under Rowan's weight, every step felt like a vow. Evelyn pressed her palm to the strap of her pack and felt the tiny bulge of her wraith seals, charms inked in ash and salt. For Rowan, there were sugared nuts. For Lyra, a promise of a story not yet told. For herself, only the next step. Tell me again, Lyra asked softly, what he liked to be called before the crown. Caelum, Evelyn said. But when the watchfires were low, he let me call him Ash after the color he used to streak through his hair so crowds wouldn't bow. He hates bowing, Lyra said, smiling. Hates being looked at like a monument. Evelyn thought of Merodeep, siren halls and the Collider Vault where a person could drown without touching water. Rumor said a man with amber eyes had broken an enchantment there last spring. Frostfang, perhaps, or a copy. Perhaps wishful thinking dressed as news. Rowan stirred, nosed the back of her neck through scarf and hair. Mama, he murmured. Hush, she breathed. We're nearly to the ridge. Hungry, he sighed. Lyra laughed. He is his father's son. A memory rose, Rowan a newborn curled against a broad chest, Caelum's expression unarmored wonder. Evelyn had felt like a candle cupped in 2 hands against the dark. She would not take that for granted again. The path narrowed. Pines leaned in, shedding frost. The snow hid slick stone and petty traps. Evelyn moved with shadowstep footwork, learned from a tea-drunk monk who believed grace could be practiced into existence. Behind her, Lyra slipped twice and swore. The princess never loved boring disciplines, but she loved Rowan, and that made her brave. They reached the ridge. The world opened, Spectres Hollow, a valley scooped by old glacier, a wound gloved in snow. Frost crystal glimmered in the rock like trapped stars, and the air smelled of iron and something older. All right, Lyra said, stopping. It is a little spooky. Mist moved across the valley floor in thoughtful swells. In the distance, black shapes marked standing stones, and beyond them a darker arch gnawed into the cliff, the Gate of Shadows, a place the old songs called unwise to name. We go fast, quiet, And uninteresting, Evelyn said. If something looks at you kindly, look away. Charming, Lyra muttered. They descended. The hollow's acoustics were peculiar, sound looped. Rowan's hum bounced back at them. Evelyn kept one hand on the wraith seals, the other on the strap that held her son. The mist brushed her like cat fur. Once, she swore she heard music, but she kept moving. Halfway across, the mist complicated into rooms. Tapestries, candlelight, the shape of a familiar door, the cottage near Drakemorn where Rowan took his first steps. The illusion smiled, tender as nostalgia after wine. Not today, she whispered, and walked through. The hallway shivered into another, vaulted and blue, a palace of winter. A man stood at the far end with his back to her, silver hair inked black. He turned just enough for the angle of his cheekbone to slice her breath. Hope could be cruel. Lyra's hand found her sleeve. Eve, she said. We should. A shape slid from the mist. Not a man. Not a memory. Too many angles, not enough kindness. Coin-colored eyes. A cracked, clever mouth. You wear his scent, it said, delighted. The Wolf King's wife. The winter rose. We pass in peace, Evelyn said. Peace is a market, the thing purred. What do you offer that would interest me? Stories, Lyra blurted. And sugared nuts. The creature blinked. Both are currency, it conceded. But your boy's heartbeat is loud. It makes the tenants restless. Evelyn stepped forward. Then let me interest you in a certainty. If anything touches him, the man who sent you will come and hang this valley from a star until it confesses. He is very good at making the difficult simple. Mist flexed. He has forgotten his names. Names are coats, Evelyn said. Under them, the man is the same. The hollow considered her. Then the creature bowed. Interest accepted. Cross quick as rabbits. They went. The mist breathed and tasted but did not become teeth. At the far stones, Evelyn's knees went soft with relief she refused to name. The gate of shadows hunched ahead like a question. Above it, crows lined the ridge, ink on snow. Rowan woke when the wind shifted. He blinked, ears pricking through the cap in a mutiny of fluff. Mama, he said. I smell Daddy. Lyra froze. Evelyn went still. The wind did smell different, smoke and steel and snow-crushed pine. Beneath it, a thread she knew better than her own pulse. Where? She asked. Rowan pointed toward the crow-packed ridge. There. Then that, Lyra said, mouth an O of hope and threat, is where we climb. Evelyn adjusted the straps, squared her shoulders, and began. The climb up the ridge was more punishment than path. Snow turned to ice, and the ice clung like a second skin. Evelyn's boots found what purchase they could in cracks and roots, her legs burning with the effort. Rowan clung tighter against her back, his small hands fisted in her cloak. Lyra went ahead, nimble despite her complaints. This had better be him, she called over her shoulder. If I'm climbing for some other silver-haired brute, I'll be very put out. Evelyn didn't waste her breath on an answer. Her heart had shifted into that dangerous territory where hope becomes sharp enough to cut. Rowan's words had been too precise. A child's instincts didn't lie, not wolf instincts. At the top, the ridge flattened into a shelf of snow-dusted stone. The wind was sharper here, carrying scents with ruthless clarity. Smoke. Steel. Pine crushed under boot. And beneath it, the wild, steady musk that lived in her marrow. He was close. Lyra froze, one hand lifted. Evelyn followed her gaze. At the far end of the stone shelf, a man stood with his back to them. Black-dyed hair tangled in the wind, shoulders broad beneath a worn leather coat. His head tilted slightly, as if listening to something only he could hear. The sight struck Evelyn with the force of a remembered dream, close enough to taste but too far to touch. Caelum, she breathed. The name fell into the wind and did not come back. He turned. Amber eyes met hers, bright against the black hair. For a heartbeat, Evelyn thought she saw recognition, something fierce and soft all at once. But it was gone too quickly, replaced by guarded distance. You've come far, he said. His voice was deeper than she remembered, roughened like stone in a river. Why? Evelyn swallowed against the ache in her throat. Because you belong with me. One dark brow arched. I think you're mistaken. Rowan squirmed on her back, tugging at her scarf. Daddy, he said, the word small and certain. Caelum's gaze flicked to the boy. Something in his posture tightened, a subtle shift as if his body recognized what his mind denied. His nostrils flared almost imperceptibly. Your son, he asked. Our son, Evelyn said. Silence stretched. The crows above muttered and shifted. Lyra crossed her arms. Don't tell me you don't remember, Ash, she said sharply. His head snapped toward her. That name was what you let me call you before you got all self-important, she said. And yes, I'm aware you're staring at me like I've grown a second head, but I'm your sister, so you can stop. Caelum's eyes narrowed, as if testing the weight of her words. I don't have a sister. Lyra threw her hands up. And I suppose I don't have a brother who disappears for months and comes back with no memory. Excellent. Evelyn stepped forward, slowly, as if approaching a wary animal. You may not remember us. But I remember every night you kept me warm in the snow, every fight we stood back to back, every promise you made and kept. I'm not the man you think I am, he said, but the words lacked conviction. You are, she said softly. You just don't know it yet. The wind picked up, carrying a low, distant howl. Caelum's gaze drifted toward the horizon. This isn't a safe place to talk. The Hollow watches even here. Then take us somewhere safe, Evelyn said. He hesitated, and in that hesitation she saw the old instinct, the need to shield, to lead. Without another word, he turned and started down a narrow trail hidden in the rocks. Lyra smirked at Evelyn. Well, that's progress. They followed him into a steep cleft that led to a half-buried shelter carved into the stone. A fire burned inside, scenting the air with pine resin. The space was small, but it was warm, and the wind could not reach them. Caelum crouched by the fire, adding another log. Rowan, now awake and curious, slid down from Evelyn's back and padded toward him. The boy's ears twitched forward, and his tail escaped from under his coat, wagged once, shyly. For a moment, Caelum just watched him. Then, almost without thinking, he reached out and ruffled Rowan's hair. The gesture was simple, uncalculated, but Evelyn's chest tightened around it. Rowan grinned up at him. You smell the same, he said. Caelum's lips quirked at one corner, as if he didn't know whether to be amused or unsettled. Do I? Like home, Rowan said. The words landed heavy in the quiet. Evelyn busied herself with unstrapping her pack, pulling out a small pouch of dried meat. She set it on the ground between them. Eat. You look like you've been living on wind. He accepted a strip of meat without argument, tearing into it with efficient bites. I don't remember much, he said after a moment. Only fragments. Shadows. A name I can't place. His gaze flicked to her. Evelyn. Her breath caught. You remember my name? Only because it comes with a feeling, he said. Something, warm. Dangerous. She forced a small smile. That's us. Lyra flopped onto a bedroll near the fire. So what's the plan, O mighty Wolf King? His eyes hardened slightly. I'm no king. Not anymore. Evelyn's voice was steady. Then we'll help you remember why you were. He looked at her for a long moment, something shifting behind his gaze. Then he said, The Hollow isn't safe for long. If you want answers, you'll have to walk with me beyond it. But the path isn't kind. Evelyn met his eyes without flinching. Neither is losing you again. The corner of his mouth twitched, as if against his will. He rose, tossing his coat over his shoulders. We leave at first light. Outside, the wind screamed against the ridge. Inside, Rowan leaned against his father's leg as if he had never been gone. Evelyn allowed herself one heartbeat of hope. Just one. Tomorrow, the real journey would begin. The Hollow was a jealous thing. Even in daylight, it clung to the edges of their sight, mist curling like watchful fingers. Evelyn walked behind Caelum, her eyes fixed on the line of his shoulders beneath the black-dyed coat. Every movement was familiar, the measured way he placed his feet, the faint tilt of his head when listening for danger yet foreign in its distance. Rowan padded between them, small hand occasionally brushing Caelum's. Each time, Caelum's fingers twitched as if resisting the urge to close around it. Lyra trudged behind, humming a tune Evelyn didn't recognize. To keep the hollow from getting ideas, she explained when Evelyn glanced back. Silence is an invitation. The path wound along the valley's edge, snow crunching underfoot. Frost crystal glittered in the cliff face, veins of blue fire beneath ice. Evelyn's breath fogged the air, her pulse a steady drumbeat in her ears. "Tell me," Caelum said suddenly, without turning, "what you think you know of me." Evelyn blinked at his back. "What I know isn't a matter of opinion. Humor me." She measured her words. "You are Caelum Fenrir, king of wolves. My husband. Rowan's father. You practice the jadebark discipline and carry the frostfang blade." "That last part," he said, "I don't have." Her jaw tightened. "Then we'll find it. Just like we found you." He glanced over his shoulder, amber eyes catching the pale light. "You make it sound inevitable." "It was," she said simply. A faint smile ghosted his mouth before he turned back. They pressed on until the path narrowed into a ledge barely wide enough for 2 feet. Below, the hollow dropped into mist-swirled nothing. Caelum led with unhurried certainty, pausing only to steady Rowan when the boy's boots slipped. Evelyn's stomach knotted each time, though Rowan never seemed afraid. Halfway across, the mist thickened, curling upward in shapes too deliberate to be wind. Evelyn caught glimpses, a table set for 2, her hand in his across it, the moment they first danced under Fenmore's great hall lanterns, the look in his eyes when she told him she was with child. Her steps faltered. "You see it too," Caelum murmured. "Yes," she said. "It's not memory," he warned. "It's bait." Her grip on the rock face tightened. "It's still mine." He stopped ahead of her, turning until they were face to face. The ledge didn't allow much space between them. His eyes searched hers. "If you follow it, you'll never come back up." "Then don't let me fall," she said. Something flickered in his expression, recognition, maybe, or the echo of it. His hand brushed her arm, steadying her until the ledge widened again. Only then did he release her, and even then his fingers lingered an instant too long. They reached the far side as the sun tilted westward. The ground sloped upward toward a copse of snow-laden pines. Beyond it, Evelyn could hear the faint rush of water. "A stream," Caelum said. "We'll camp there tonight." When they emerged into the trees, the world seemed gentler. Snow muffled their steps, and the air was scented with pine resin. Rowan bounded ahead, tail swishing under his coat. Lyra followed, kicking at drifts. Evelyn knelt by the stream to fill a flask. The water was cold enough to bite, the surface broken by little islands of ice. Caelum joined her, crouching so close she could feel the heat of him through her sleeve. "You're too quiet," she said without looking up. "I'm listening." "To what?" "The way you say my name in your head before you speak to me." Her heart stuttered. "And what do you hear?" He studied her for a long moment, the amber of his gaze molten in the fading light. "Something I want to remember." Before she could answer, Rowan came pelting back with a pinecone in each hand. "Mama, Uncle Ash. Look, battle treasures." Caelum's brow lifted. "Uncle Ash? Better than Daddy who doesn't he remember," Lyra said dryly, flopping down beside the fire pit Caelum had started digging. Evelyn bit back a smile. "It was your old name. When you wanted to be anyone but the king." He made a non-committal sound and busied himself stacking kindling. But his hands were slower than necessary, as if the name pulled at something buried. They built the fire together, and soon the scent of roasting meat filled the clearing. Rowan sat cross-legged, gnawing on a strip of jerky, while Lyra told an embellished story about a fox who outwitted a hunter. Caelum listened with half an ear, his gaze often drifting to Evelyn. When the fire settled into embers, Rowan curled into his blankets, ears twitching in sleep. Lyra sprawled nearby, already snoring softly. Evelyn sat across from Caelum, the firelight painting shadows across his face. "You've changed," she said quietly. "In what way?" "You're quieter. More careful." He considered this. "When you don't know who you are, you measure every word as if it might cost you." She reached across the space between them, her fingers brushing the back of his hand. "Then let me give you something to measure by." His eyes met hers, steady and unreadable. "And what's that?" "My promise," she said. "That no matter how long it takes, I'm not leaving without you." For a moment, neither of them moved. The fire popped, sending a spark into the snow. Then, slowly, he turned his hand under hers, palm to palm. It wasn't memory. But it was something. Night gathered like velvet stitched with frost. The fire burned low, sighing when wind combed the pines. Evelyn kept watch with her back to a tree, knives in her lap and a wraith seal warm in her palm. Across the embers, Caelum lay turned toward Rowan, one arm braced over the boy's blanket roll in a protective curve that looked learned, not remembered. Lyra snored softly. The hollow disliked being ignored. Silence sharpened, like glass beneath snow. The wind smelled wrong, wet stone, cold iron, old leaves startled awake. "Caelum," Evelyn whispered. His eyes opened at once, noctilucent in the dark. He rose and stood between the trees and his family. Instinct moved where memory would not. Rowan stirred. "Sure, little wolf." "Dream of soup," Evelyn murmured. Lyra blinked awake. "What is it?" "Something from the hollow," Evelyn said. "Close." Shadows buckled. Limbs stepped out of absence. The thing was the size of a stag but wrong in every angle, too many joints, too many teeth. Its head was a bark mask veined with frost crystal that pulsed. When it breathed, the pines hissed. "Don't let it touch the boy," Caelum said, voice calm as deep water. "I wasn't planning on it," Evelyn said. It lunged, snow blurring. Caelum met it in 2 strides. He had no sword, but his body was a language of violence. He caught where barkskin split and twisted. The monster shrieked. Evelyn flanked left, shadow step carrying her through the thin places between motion and stillness. 2 needles flashed, the falling petal dagger dance. Where metal kissed frost crystal, frost smoked. The thing reeled. Lyra snapped a wraith seal. Pale light leapt, carving a boundary. "If it crosses, it burns," she said. "In practice," Evelyn answered, "we prefer it not find Rowan." Caelum drew the creature away from the blankets. He moved with certainty that felt like memory's shadow. A blow tore his coat and chest, blood darkened. He did not fall. He stepped into the pain, seized a misborn forelimb, and broke it. "Jade bark," Lyra breathed. He's using the discipline even without remembering it. Evelyn saw it, the rooted grace, the stillness inside motion. Training flashed through her, his hands correcting her stance, praise spoken like a secret, the kiss afterward that stole her breath. The creature retreated, frost crystal veins brightening. With a sound like ice splitting, it shed shards that became skittering horrors. They swarmed the boundary. The first crossed, the seal flared, burning it to steam. The second learned and leapt. "Rowan," Evelyn barked. He was awake now, eyes huge. "Under the coat. Be still." He obeyed, small body taut with courage. Evelyn stepped into the swarm. Knives flashed. A slice here, a crush there. One leapt for her throat. Caelum's hand closed around it midair, crushing until crystal popped. "Left," she said. "Seen," he answered. They moved as if rehearsed. The larger beast circled, searching for weakness. Evelyn palmed a vial of quicklime, met Lyra's gaze, and flicked it. Lyra caught it and smashed the vial against the creature's leg. Lime hissed, chewing bark. The thing screamed. "Ugly," Lyra observed. "Hungry," Caelum said. "Made of want." "What does it want?" Evelyn asked. Rowan shivered beneath the coat. The creature charged again, desperate. Caelum braced, caught the blow, pivoted with rooted certainty, and levered the monster over his hip. It hit the ground. "Bind it," he said. Lyra tossed a second seal. Evelyn slapped it to the creature's chest. Light crawled through the frost crystal like veins igniting. The monster writhed, and the seal held. For a heartbeat. "Not enough," Evelyn hissed. The bark mask split. Beneath, a mouthful of night. It breathed in, and the fire guttered, embers paling. Evelyn felt the tug, saw herself a stranger, saw Caelum turning away, saw a future where Rowan stopped asking for bedtime stories about a father who never came home. Rage steadied her. She drove a knife into the nearest vein and leaned her weight. "Take me," she told it, voice even. "Leave the boy." "No," Caelum snapped, feral. Something inside him tore loose, a door opening in a locked house. His pupils blew wide. The air sharpened, cold iron, snowstorm. Where his shadow fell, hoarfrost spiraled in delicate stars. The creature panicked and surged. Caelum seized the mask in both hands. "Look at me," he said, and his voice wasn't only a man's. It was a winter river deciding its path. The creature looked. The hollow hesitated. Evelyn flung her last needles into the pulsing vein. "Now." Caelum twisted. The mask tore free. The thing convulsed, light blew out of its veins. It collapsed into dark wood and dull crystal, then ash. The smaller horrors, leaderless, died. Silence returned. Evelyn was breathing hard. Caelum stood still. Hoarfrost sublimated to mist. Rowan launched from under the coat and wrapped Caelum's legs. "Daddy." Caelum looked down, surprised to find a small life clinging to him. His hand trembled as it settled on the boy's back. "I told you to stay hidden," he said. Rowan tipped his head back. "You came when Mama said now." "I did," Caelum said softly. Lyra flopped onto the snow. "Well. That was invigorating. Anyone else smell burnt nightmares?" Evelyn cleaned her blade. Up close, she saw the slice across Caelum's chest, blood seeping, quick-healed edges hinting at a body used to surviving what should break it. "Sit," she said. He did, watching her with the wary intensity of a man who had almost remembered something dangerous. She cleaned the wound, hand steady, heart not. When she finished, she pressed her brow to his shoulder, a touch that said, "I'm here. Don't drift." His breath hitched. "When you said now, my body moved," he said. "Like a door I didn't know opened." Evelyn met his eyes. "Then we'll keep opening them." They rebuilt the fire, feeding it twigs until flame returned. "Hollowborn," Lyra said. "Souls glued to bark and hunger." Evelyn tucked the last needle back into its sleeve. Her hands still tingled. Across the flame, Caelum watched the snow settle, profile cut in light. His gaze softened when it fell to Rowan. "You moved before thinking," she said. "My body remembered a command," he replied. "Your voice made it simple." Evelyn's throat tightened. "Then I'll keep speaking." Rowan yawned and crawled into both their laps at once, an untidy bundle of wool, ears, and trust. Caelum froze, then gathered the boy as if made for his arms. Outside, the wind combed the pines, softer, like a blessing. At last. By morning, the hollow had receded like a tide, leaving frost-shattered silence in its wake. Evelyn woke to the sound of Rowan giggling, the low rumble of Caelum's voice answering in quiet amusement. She kept her eyes closed a moment longer, breathing in the warmth of fire smoke and pine, the scent of her husband close. When she sat up, Caelum was crouched near Rowan, showing him how to braid pine needles into a crude rope. The boy's ears were perked forward, tail swishing. Lyra was still wrapped in her blanket roll, pretending to sleep while clearly eavesdropping. "We'll be on the Siren Road by mid-morning," Caelum said, straightening when he noticed Evelyn. "From there, the land slopes toward Meadowdeep." Evelyn rubbed her hands together for warmth. "I've heard the road is beautiful this time of year. I've also heard it swallows the unwary." His mouth twitched faintly. "Both are true." They ate quickly, the air already sharp with the promise of another storm. Evelyn kept her gaze on Caelum while they broke camp, watching the way his movements adapted to Rowan's presence, how he shifted to walk between the boy and any drop, how his head turned at each sound, even if his face stayed neutral. Memory might not be there, but instinct was. The Siren Road revealed itself in a narrow pass between two cliffs. Ice cascaded down the rock like frozen waterfalls, and in their depths, shapes moved, pale figures with hair like kelp, eyes like liquid light. The air was warmer here, scented faintly of salt despite the snow. "Meadowdeep's illusions reach far inland," Caelum said, his voice low. "They'll try to charm you before you see the water." "I'll try not to fall in love twice," Evelyn murmured. Lyra snorted. "You can't afford the divorce." They moved cautiously along the road. The cliffs whispered, voices threading together in a strange harmony, half lullaby, half morning song. Evelyn kept her focus on the crunch of her boots, the rise and fall of Caelum's shoulders ahead. Then she tested him. "Do you remember," she asked lightly, "the night we shared tea in the east wing of Fenrir Keep? You said the leaves tasted like snow just before it melts." He slowed fractionally. "No," he said. But his eyes flickered sideways, troubled. She tried again later. "Training hall. I was your slowest student. You told me, root the feet, then the heart will follow." His breath caught so subtly she might have imagined it. "That sounds like me," he said after a pause. When they stopped for a brief rest, Evelyn began to hum a melody without words. Rowan tilted his head, recognizing it. Lyra mouthed the name, the Wolf's Vigil. Caelum froze. Slowly, he turned to her. "Where did you learn that?" "You taught me," she said simply. For a moment, something raw lived in his gaze. But then the cliff's whispers rose, drowning it. They pushed on. By midday, mist had rolled across the pass, heavy and wet. Evelyn felt eyes on them, too many, too intent. The hair at her nape prickled. Caelum's hand went to the knife at his belt. "We're being followed." "How many?" Evelyn asked. He inhaled. 3, no, 4. Light-footed. Not hollowborn. Lyra drew closer to Rowan. "Siren kin?" "Could be," Caelum said. "Could be worse." The voices in the cliffs grew sweeter, coaxing. Evelyn caught flashes between the mist, glimmers of scales, fingers tipped in opal claws. One figure was close enough she could see the water sliding off its skin as if it had just stepped from the sea. "Stay in sight of me," Caelum said, his tone brooking no argument. They moved as a knot, the mist thickening until it was hard to see more than a few paces ahead. Shapes paced them, just out of reach. Evelyn's fingers found her throwing needles. Her heart was steady, Caelum was here. Then, from somewhere ahead, a voice sang her name. It was his voice. Caelum's. But not the man in front of her. The sound rooted her to the path. Caelum's voice, warm and low, the one he used in rare unguarded moments. "Evelyn. Come here." She knew the man ahead of her was real, and yet something in the song curled around her ribs and pulled. She saw him in the mist, silver-haired, amber-eyed, waiting with his arms open. Not the guarded man she had now, but the Caelum who remembered her, who had whispered vows in the dark. A step forward. "Eve." The real Caelum's voice cracked like a whip. His hand closed on her arm, yanking her back. "Eyes on me," she gasped, realizing she'd been halfway off the road. The mist churned angrily, the figure dissolving into scales and claws. A siren-kin hissed, retreating into the veil. Caelum didn't release her. His grip was iron, his stare fierce. "You never follow a voice in their waters. Even if it sounds like me. Especially then." Her pulse thundered. It sounded, exactly. "I know," he said. "That's how they steal you." Lyra edged closer, Rowan tucked under her arm like a bundle of precious cloth. "They tried it on me," she said. "Came as a boy I liked back in Fenrir. Almost worked. But he never smelled like kelp." Evelyn managed a shaky breath. "I wasn't thinking." "That's how they win," Caelum said. His thumb brushed her wrist before he let go. "You think you're walking toward love. You're really walking into their teeth." The mist thickened until the road narrowed to a strip. Siren-kin shapes darted in and out, keeping pace. One, bolder than the rest, lunged for Lyra. Evelyn's hand snapped up, a needle flew, sinking into the creature's shoulder. It shrieked and vanished. Caelum's gaze cut to her. "Nice throw. You trained me," she said. The corner of his mouth twitched. "Apparently I did." They pressed forward. The song from the cliffs grew more desperate, notes bending like glass under heat. Evelyn kept her focus on tangible things, the weight of her pack, the warmth of Rowan's scent, the steady sound of Caelum's steps. A sudden splash to their left. Water pooled across the path where there'd been only snow. From it rose a siren-kin taller than any she'd seen, crowned with strands of silver weed, eyes like molten pearl. Its mouth opened, and Caelum's voice poured out again, this time laughing, teasing, the way he'd sounded the night they'd raced through Fenmore's frost gardens. Evelyn froze, the memory so vivid it hurt. Caelum moved without hesitation. In one stride he was between her and the siren, his own voice cutting through the false one. "Evelyn! Here!" The command snapped like a tether. She stepped to him. The siren hissed, lunging, but he met it with a blow that sent it crashing back into the water. "Run," he said. They ran. The road twisted, the mist pursuing. Twice more shapes darted close, but none breached the ring Caelum kept around them. When at last the mist thinned, they burst into open snowlight. The ocean spread far below, a dark sheet of glass. Evelyn bent double, catching her breath. Caelum stood beside her, scanning the road behind for pursuit. Rowan peeked from Lyra's hood, ears flicking in relief. "They'll follow at the shore," Caelum said. "Merodeep won't let us pass quietly." Evelyn straightened, meeting his eyes. "Thank you." His gaze softened almost imperceptibly. "You came when I called. That's enough." Her lips curved faintly. "Guess I'm trainable after all." He huffed something like a laugh. And for a moment, just a flicker, she thought she saw her Caelum again. The path down from the Siren Road spiraled toward the sea, each turn revealing more of Merodeep's shimmer. At first, Evelyn thought the city floated, its towers of coral and glass suspended over the dark water. Then the sun shifted, and she saw illusions layered on illusions, refracting like light in a prism. Rowan stared, eyes wide, ears perked under his hood. "Is it real?" Lyra shaded her eyes. "Some of it." Caelum's jaw was set, unreadable. "Don't trust what moves too perfectly." Closer now, Evelyn saw why. The streets below rippled as if painted on the surface of a pond. People, if they were people, walked without leaving shadows. The air smelled faintly of salt and roses, but the wind from the sea carried neither. At the gate, a figure awaited them. Tall, with hair like spun gold weed and eyes of pale turquoise, dressed in a robe that flowed as if underwater. When she smiled, Evelyn felt the urge to trust her bloom like a tide inside her mind. "Travelers," the woman said, her voice a chord of many voices. "Welcome to Merodeep. I am Thalira, keeper of the Vault. May I offer you rest?" Evelyn's skin prickled. "We're passing through." "Through?" Thalira tilted her head, the motion slow and graceful. "You would deny yourselves beauty, comfort. The vault opens to guests who bring stories, or secrets." Her gaze lingered on Caelum. "You carry both." Caelum's tone was flat. "We'll trade for safe passage to the southern key." Thalira's smile deepened, but her eyes didn't warm. "Passage requires tribute." "What kind?" Evelyn asked. "A memory," Thalira said. "One precious to you. We keep it safe, and you move on unharmed." Rowan's hand crept into Evelyn's. Lyra snorted. "That's theft dressed as hospitality." Evelyn's mind flashed to the night Caelum had first touched her face as if afraid she'd break. "We don't sell what we can't replace," she said. Thalira's eyes glimmered like fish scales. "Then you may find our city less accommodating." They entered Merodeep under watchful stares. The streets were impossibly clean, lined with fountains whose waters glittered with colors Evelyn had no name for. Music curled from unseen sources. Everything shimmered, a fraction too perfect, edges too smooth, smiles too precise. Rowan tugged her sleeve. "Mama, that man has no feet." She glanced, and the illusion broke. Where a tall merchant had walked, there was only a shadow moving through water. Caelum noticed. "They're showing us what they want us to see," he said. "Which means they're hiding what they don't." As they wound deeper into the city, Evelyn caught glimpses. Behind a curtain of cascading petals, a room full of glass coffins, beneath a bridge, shapes huddled like sleepers who would never wake. They stopped in a small square, its centerpiece a great sphere of glass filled with swirling light. Thalira's voice drifted from nowhere and everywhere at once. "Welcome to the Vault," she said. "A treasury of dreams. Those who give may take in return beauty for pain, joy for grief." Evelyn felt the pull, gentle but insistent, like warm hands at her back. She saw herself and Caelum dancing in Fenmore's hall, Rowan laughing between them. The vision ached. She stepped back, breaking its hold. What's the price for refusing? The square darkened. You'll find our roads harder to walk, Fenrir said. Evelyn met Caelum's gaze. We need to move quickly. His eyes swept the square, the buildings, the illusions. They're feeding on what they take, he murmured. And they've been feeding for a long time. The square's music shifted, sweetening until it was almost cloying. The sphere of glass pulsed with each note, light swirling faster within. Evelyn's gaze snagged on the shapes moving inside the light faces, dozens of them, their eyes closed as if in sleep. Rowan's voice was small. Mama, they're breathing. Caelum stepped closer, nostrils flaring. Not breathing. Draining. His voice carried that dangerous stillness Evelyn had learned meant something was about to break. Lyra circled the sphere, peering through the glow. Beast folk. Humans. Old and young. How long have they been in there? Long enough to be shadows, Caelum said. His hand hovered near the glass as if testing for weakness. The sirens harvest life force, not just memories. That's how they keep the illusions alive. Evelyn's skin crawled. So every song, every perfect smile, paid for with someone else's years. A ripple disturbed the air. Fenrir appeared at the far side of the sphere. Her turquoise eyes gleamed. You see quickly, Wolf King. We do not take without giving. In dreams, they live better lives than they ever knew. They're prisoners, Evelyn said. They are content, Fenrir corrected. And the vault is beautiful because of them. Would you rather a world stripped bare of wonder? Caelum's voice was low, lethal. I'd rather a world where wonder isn't stolen. The siren's smile thinned. Break the vault, and the city will crumble. Thousands will lose their sanctuary. Are you ready to bear that? Evelyn's mind raced. If the vault feeds on what's inside, then destroying it frees them but starves the city. Which is why, Fenrir said, you will pay your tribute and leave. No, Caelum said. The glass sphere's glow flared, illusions thickening around them. The square dissolved into a feast hall, tables laden with food, music swelling. Figures from Evelyn's past drifted by, faces unlined, laughter ringing. In the center, a memory she couldn't bear to see, Caelum, whole and remembering, holding her as they danced. Her knees wavered. The warmth, the safety, it was almost enough to make her step forward. A hand closed around hers. Real, calloused, warm. Don't, Caelum said, his amber gaze steady. It's not ours yet. The illusion wavered. Evelyn gripped his hand harder, focused on the heartbeat she could feel through his palm. Lyra's voice cut through. Rowan, stay with me. Evelyn turned in time to see a tendril of water snaking toward her son. Caelum moved first, pulling Rowan behind him with one arm while the other drove his fist into the tendril's source, a shimmer in the air that broke like glass under impact. The feast vanished. The sphere loomed again, its light flickering. Cracks spread across its surface, thin and white. Fenrir's calm slipped. If you do this, they wake, Caelum said. And you lose your chains. He drew in a deep breath, bracing. Evelyn recognized the stance, rooted, unyielding, the jadebark discipline in its purest form. Then his palm slammed into the glass, a burst of frost spiraling from his touch. The sphere screamed. Light burst outward, the shapes inside scattering into motes that rushed skyward. The illusions collapsed, the towers of glass became barnacled stone, the fountains empty basins, the streets warped and worn. The city was not beautiful. It was tired. And the people were waking, dazed, thin, their eyes struggling to focus. Fenrir's voice echoed, stripped of its harmonies. You've doomed them to hunger and cold. Evelyn stepped forward. Better to face truth than live in stolen dreams. The siren's turquoise eyes burned with fury before she dissolved into mist. Rowan clung to Caelum's leg. Did we win? Caelum's gaze swept the waking city. Not yet. But we took the first stone out of their walls. Evelyn met his eyes, and for a moment, the victory felt like theirs alone. They left Merodeep at dawn, the city a shadow of its illusions. Freed captives stumbled through streets stripped of glass and coral, faces pinched with cold. The sea was grey and restless, no longer singing. Evelyn didn't look back. Caelum led them inland, his stride measured, head turning often to scan for pursuit. Rowan rode on his shoulders, small hands tangled in his father's hair, tail flicking with the rhythm of Caelum's steps. Lyra trailed behind, muttering about adventures that smell like rotten kelp. By midday the ocean was a memory, replaced by frost-crusted fields. The road wound toward a valley choked with leafless trees, Little Hollow. Evelyn had heard of it before, a quiet village with stubborn people, plagued by whispers of a curse. Now, smoke curled from its chimneys, and the air carried a faint tremor. Caelum stopped abruptly. "Hear that?" Evelyn strained her ears. Beneath the whisper of wind was a low grinding, like stone dragged over stone. Lyra frowned. "That's not windmill work." They crested a ridge, and the hollow lay below, a cluster of cottages huddled around a frozen well. Shapes moved among them, hulking and wrong. At first Evelyn thought they were statues, until one shifted, and another tore the roof off a barn as if it were paper. Stone beasts. Their bodies were slabs of granite strung together with sinew like iron cables. Cracks in their hides glowed faintly red. The villagers were fighting, pitchforks, axes, anything to hold the creatures back, but the stone beasts crushed doors and snapped fence posts like twigs. Rowan's ears flattened. "Bad smell," he whispered. Evelyn's stomach knotted. "Serpent magic," she said. "Old and angry." Caelum's gaze swept the valley, sharp and assessing. "They're looking for something. Or someone." A scream split the air, a woman on the far side of the square, her leg caught under rubble. A beast reared over her, shadow blotting the snow. Evelyn was moving before she thought. Caelum was faster. He hit the slope at a dead run, snow exploding under his boots. Evelyn followed, Lyra close behind. The stone beast swung, but Caelum ducked low, driving his shoulder into its midsection. It staggered, cracking stone shrieking. Evelyn darted to the woman, hauling her clear. Lyra shoved a fallen beam under the beast's legs. It tripped, crashing into the frozen well. "Get her to cover," Caelum barked. Evelyn dragged the woman toward the nearest cottage, where other villagers huddled. "What happened?" she demanded. The woman's breath came in ragged bursts. It came with the thaw. Said it wanted the heart of the hollow. Said it would turn us all to stone if we didn't give it. It. Her eyes darted toward the well. A voice in the dark water. Evelyn's blood chilled. A serpent demon. Old enough to work through stone, old enough to whisper from deep places. Outside, Caelum fought with brutal efficiency, striking at the glowing cracks where stone met sinew. Each blow shook the ground. But for every beast that fell, another stalked from the trees. Lyra skidded to Evelyn's side, cheeks flushed. "They're not wandering. They're guarding the well." Evelyn's gaze shifted to the frozen circle at the village center. The serpent's voice in the water. The heart it wanted. Whatever it was, it would keep sending it stone-fed until it had it, or until the hollow was nothing but rubble. "We need to know what it's after," she said. Lyra's grin was sharp. "Guess that means someone has to go swimming." Evelyn's eyes met Caelum's across the square. He'd heard. His nod was curt. "Hold the beasts," she said. "I'll get answers." The well's rim was slick with ice. Evelyn kicked away enough frost to loop a rope around one of the stone posts, testing the knot twice before lowering herself in. The cold bit through her gloves, her breath plumed white in the narrow shaft. Above, Caelum's voice carried. "I'll hold the square. Keep the rope steady." Rowan's small reply, "Don't let Mama fall." The rope creaked as she descended. The light from above narrowed to a pale circle, replaced by a dim red glow from far below. The air grew damp, smelling of mineral and something older, scale and venom. She touched down on wet stone. The water wasn't frozen here. It pulsed faintly, as if breathing. "Welcome, little thorn." The voice slid into her mind, low and thick as oil. Ripples spread across the surface, and from them rose the shape of a serpent's head, jagged horns, eyes like molten garnet. Its body was smoke and shadow, curling down into darkness. "I'm not here to be welcomed," Evelyn said, keeping her stance loose. "Yet you come. You smell of wolf, but your heart is human. Curious, and dangerous. You're tearing this village apart. Why?" The heart of the hollow. It was mine before they stole it. A gem of stone and blood, the last fragment of my first skin. Return it, and the beasts will sleep. And if we don't? Its fangs glinted. Then I will turn every soul here to stone, until the hollow is mine again. She weighed the risk. If the gem was truly tied to it, removing it might weaken the demon. But giving it back. Above, the square erupted in shouts. The rope jerked violently. Caelum, she called. Stay down. His voice was hard, edged with strain. Stone beasts roared. The serpent's laugh echoed in the water. They come for your tether. When it breaks, you will join me here, and your skin will be my first meal. Evelyn spun, drawing 2 needles, their tips glistening with quicksilver poison. Try me. The water surged, forming tendrils of liquid stone that lashed toward her. She dodged, blades slicing through one, stone hissing where poison met it. Above, she heard Lyra shouting orders, Rowan crying out, and Caelum's deeper roar, a sound that was more wolf than man. The rope went slack. Evelyn's stomach dropped. Caelum. A shadow blotted the light above, then a form slid down the rope fast enough to burn palms. Caelum landed beside her in a crouch, frost crystal shards glittering on his coat. His amber eyes locked on hers. We hold the line here. The serpent reared back, hissing. Ah! The Wolf King without his crown. Caelum's jaw tightened. That's more than you'll have when I'm finished. The demon lunged, water hardening into jagged spears. Caelum met the strike with his forearm, the blow splintering against his skin. Evelyn darted low, knives flashing, cutting through another tendril before it could encircle him. You have the gem? He asked between blows. Not yet. Where? She broke off as the serpent's tail slammed into the cavern wall, shattering rock. Behind it, half buried in the stone, something glowed, a crimson shard the size of her fist. That's it, she said. Take it, Caelum ordered. I'll keep its eyes on me. He moved into the serpent's reach, ducking and striking with jadebark precision, each step an anchor. The demon focused on him, fangs snapping. Evelyn slipped past its flank, pried the shard from the rock. It came free with a sound like a sigh, the glow intensifying in her hands. The serpent screamed, body writhing. The water lost form, splashing back into the pool. Cracks spidered through its shadow flesh. You've weakened it, Caelum said. Above, the grinding roars of the stone beasts faltered, then fell silent. Evelyn tucked the shard into a leather pouch. Let's get out before it remembers how to bite. They climbed fast, the rope swaying. Lyra was waiting, breathless, a sword in one hand and Rowan clinging to her back. About time, she said. Thought I'd have to fish you out with the laundry pole. Caelum's boots hit the square. He scanned for threats, but the beasts lay in heaps of inert stone, their cracks dimmed. The air was blessedly still. Evelyn met his gaze. We're not done with this demon. His expression was grim. No. But now it knows we're coming. The road to Drakemorn cut through frost-bent forests, the serpent's shard a constant weight in Evelyn's pack. Its glow was faint now, but she could still feel its pulse against her spine, a slow beat like something sleeping and dreaming of teeth. Rowan rode in Lyra's arms, dozing. Caelum walked ahead, silent, his eyes scanning the trees. Since Little Hollow, he'd spoken less, but when their gazes met, she caught flickers of something more than instinct. As if the battles had been chiseling away at stone in his mind. By midday, the black walls of Drakemorn rose ahead. Built on a spine of volcanic rock, the fortress city looked as if it had clawed its way from the earth. The gate guards, human and grim-faced, watched their approach without welcome. State your purpose, one called. Research, Evelyn said. And family. The guard's gaze snagged on Caelum. Beastfolk aren't. They're with me, Evelyn cut in. And Drakemorn owes me 2 favors. The man hesitated, then waved them through. Inside, the streets were all narrow lanes and high shadows. Merchants hawked winter pears and smoked fish, cobblers hammered souls by lantern light. And everywhere, the faint, sour tang of suspicion toward the wolf at her side. Rowan's ears twitched under his hood. People are staring. They always stare at what they don't understand, Evelyn murmured. They turned onto a quieter lane. At the far end, a house stood in the same pale stone Evelyn remembered, 3 stories, steep roof, the scent of rosemary from the garden. Her chest tightened. The door opened before they reached it. A woman stepped out, tall, still beautiful, hair silvered but eyes as sharp as ever. Her mother. "Evelyn," she said, her tone a blade wrapped in silk. "I heard you were dead." "I got better," Evelyn said. Her mother's gaze slid to Caelum, lingering on his height, his eyes, the ears just visible under his hood. "And you brought company." "Family," Evelyn corrected. "This is Caelum. My husband. And our son, Rowan." If her mother was surprised, she hid it well. "You always did like to shock me." She looked at Rowan. "Come here, child." Rowan glanced at Evelyn, who nodded. He trotted forward, tail flicking nervously. Her mother studied him for a long moment before saying, "You have your father's eyes. And your mother's stubborn jaw." Lyra stepped up, grinning. "Don't worry, I'm just the aunt. The fun one." Her mother's mouth quirked. "We'll see." Inside, the air was warm with baking bread and the faint scent of ink. Evelyn led them to the sitting room, where a fire burned low. She set her pack beside her chair, careful to keep the shard within reach. Her mother poured tea. "You've been gone 4 years. You arrive with a beast king who claims to be your husband, a child, and if the gossip is true, trouble at your heels." "Gossip isn't wrong," Evelyn said. "We came from Meadowdeep. Freed captives. Fought off Hollowborn. And there's a serpent demon who wants this." She tapped the pouch. Her mother's gaze sharpened. "And you brought it into my house." Caelum's voice was low. "It's safer with us than with anyone else in this city." Something in his tone made her mother's eyes narrow. "You speak as if you mean to keep it." Evelyn leaned forward. "We need Drakemont's archives. There may be a way to destroy it." "You think a city that still flinches at the sight of a wolf will open its vaults for you?" her mother asked. Evelyn met her gaze without flinching. "Then we make them." Dinner in Drakemorn had always been a performance. Tonight, it was a battlefield draped in linen and silver. The long table gleamed under candlelight, set with polished plates and crystal goblets. Evelyn sat between Caelum and Rowan, Lyra across from her, and her mother at the head. The other guests were chosen with care: merchants, minor nobles, a few city officials. But Evelyn recognized the man at her mother's right, Lord Harlan Vey, a silk trader with a serpent's smile. He'd courted Evelyn once, years before she met Caelum, and had not forgiven her refusal. Harlan's gaze lingered on Caelum's ears, then Rowan's tail peeking from under his chair. His lips curved in mockery. "I must commend you, Lady Evelyn. Most women return from an absence with pearls or stories. You bring livestock." The words hung in the air. Lyra's fork stilled. Rowan's ears flattened. Evelyn's fingers curled around her wineglass. "Careful, Harlan. Your manners are slipping." He smirked. "I speak only truth. Beast folk are unpredictable. Dangerous. You've endangered this house by." The sound that cut him off was not loud, but it stilled the table all the same. Caelum set down his goblet with deliberate calm, the motion quiet as snowfall. His amber eyes met Harlan's, unblinking. "Say another word about my wife or my son," he said, his voice low enough to make the candles tremble, "and I will show you exactly how dangerous I am." Harlan laughed, though it was thinner now. "Is that a threat?" Caelum leaned forward slightly. "No. A promise." The room had gone so silent Evelyn could hear the fire crackle. Her mother's gaze was unreadable, but she did not intervene. Harlan shifted in his seat, swallowing whatever retort he'd been forming. Caelum's attention shifted to Rowan, his tone softening. "Eat, little wolf." Rowan obeyed, tail twitching, eyes wide with pride. Lyra grinned across the table. "And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you don't poke wolves with sticks." Conversation limped back to life, but Evelyn felt the shift. Some guests avoided Caelum's gaze entirely, while others looked at him with a new, wary respect. When the plates were cleared and dessert brought, honeyed pears and spiced cream, her mother spoke at last. "You've made your point, Caelum Fenrir. Drakemorn will not bar its doors to you. But respect here must be earned. Caelum met her gaze. Then we'll earn it. After the guests had gone, Evelyn found him standing by the window, the moonlight silvering his hair where the dye had faded. You didn't have to defend me, she said quietly. His eyes found hers, steady and certain. Yes, I did. It wasn't memory, but it was the shape of it. Drakemont's archives were older than the city itself, built into the volcanic stone like a hive. Evelyn had spent half her childhood in these halls, sneaking between shelves while her tutors argued over dusty tomes. Now, the air felt heavier, as if the stone remembered every secret it had ever swallowed. A clerk in a green robe led them down a winding stair, his eyes flicking uneasily to Caelum and Lyra. You have until sundown, he said, unlocking a barred door. No fire inside. The shelves are sensitive. They stepped into a chamber lit by sun shafts filtered through crystal panes. Scrolls, ledgers, and bound volumes lined the walls, their spines etched with glyphs. The scent of parchment and ink was thick as wool. Evelyn moved toward the section marked arcane anomalies. Lyra trailed behind her, muttering about how dust is just ghosts you can breathe. Caelum kept to the room's center, his gaze moving over the high balconies and narrow shadows. What exactly are we looking for? Lyra asked. Anything on serpent demons, soul-bound relics, or the heart of the hollow, Evelyn said. Preferably with instructions that don't involve accidentally unleashing it. Rowan wandered toward a table stacked with maps, his small hands tracing river lines. Memar, look, Fenmore Vale is big. It is, Caelum said, joining him. His voice was faintly wistful, though Evelyn doubted he knew why. She scanned titles, pulling one heavy ledger and thumbing through its brittle pages. Illustrations of scaled beasts curled along the margins. One entry caught her eye, on the severance of anchored spirits. The text spoke of breaking a demon's tether by fracturing the vessel and scattering its essence across consecrated ground. Dangerous, but possible. Before she could call Caelum over, Lyra hissed softly from an alcove. Eve. Look at this. She held up a folded parchment, the seal broken. Inside was a list of names, merchants, guards, 2 council members. At the top, the Drakemorn Accord signatories in support of human purity. Evelyn's stomach sank. A rebellion. More like a purge, Lyra said. They want beastfolk out. Permanently. Caelum appeared at her side, reading over her shoulder. His jaw tightened. And they're meeting here. Tonight. The clerk's voice drifted from the hall, speaking in low tones to someone unseen. Footsteps followed, more than one set. Evelyn slid the parchment into her coat. We're not alone. Caelum's gaze flicked to Rowan, then to the high windows. We need an exit. Lyra grinned, already moving toward the nearest ladder. Good thing I like climbing. The footsteps grew louder, a sharp counterpoint to the slow tick of the archive's brass clock. Evelyn glanced at Caelum, he was already herding Rowan toward the ladder Lyra had found. The clerk's voice floated in again, sharper now. They're inside. Keep it quiet. Rebels. And not the kind who waited politely for darkness. Lyra scrambled up the ladder with the agility of a squirrel, swinging onto a narrow balcony. Up, 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 she hissed, lowering a hand for Rowan. Caelum boosted the boy in one smooth motion, then followed without effort. Evelyn came last, skirts catching on the wood rungs. The balcony curved along the wall toward a narrow window propped open for air. Beyond it, rooftops sprawled under the afternoon sun, a maze of slate and chimney smoke. Below, the archive's main doors groaned open. Boots scraped on stone. Evelyn swung onto the roof and crouched low. Which way? South wall, Lyra said. Drops into the old market square. Fewer guards. They moved fast, Caelum in front, Lyra behind, Rowan between. The shingles were slick with frost, the wind sharp. Evelyn's pulse thudded in her ears, not from the climb, but from the voices rising below, too close. There a shout rang out. An arrow hissed past, clattering against the tiles. Caelum's head snapped toward the sound, eyes narrowing. Keep moving. They leapt the first gap. Evelyn felt the rush of empty air beneath her boots, the landing jar her knees. Rowan cleared it with Caelum's hand steadying his back. Lyra landed like a cat, already scanning for the next path. The rebels followed, climbing onto the roof from the balcony below. Evelyn caught a glimpse of a familiar face, Lord Harlan Vey, his silks traded for a dark cloak, bow in hand. His eyes locked on her with a predator's focus. Another arrow loosed. Caelum yanked her aside, it grazed his shoulder instead. The scent of his blood hit her like a spark to dry tinder. Caelum. Later, he said, already vaulting to the next roof. They weaved through a tangle of chimneys, boots scraping on tile. The market square's bell tower loomed ahead, its spire a dark finger against the sky. Lyra pointed. There, jump to the bell tower, down the stairs, out the south gate. The gap was wider here. Caelum leapt first, landing solidly on the tower's ledge. He turned, arms out. Rowan, now. The boy ran and jumped. Caelum caught him midair. Lyra followed, graceful as a ribbon. Evelyn took a breath, ran, and pushed off hard. For a heartbeat she was flying, then Caelum's hands closed around her wrists, hauling her onto the ledge. Behind them, Harlan's voice snarled, "Don't let them reach the gate." The tower's stairs spiraled down into shadow. They descended fast, the sound of pursuit echoing above. At the base, Caelum kicked open a side door, spilling them into the square. The south gate rose ahead. 2 city guards turned at the commotion. Evelyn recognized one from her childhood, eyes wide at the sight of her. "No time to explain," she said. "Open it." The guard hesitated, then shoved the gate's bar free. They slipped through into the frostlit road beyond, the shouts fading behind them. Caelum adjusted Rowan in his arms, blood soaking one shoulder, eyes scanning the tree line. "We can't come back," he said. Evelyn met his gaze. "Then we make sure they regret driving us out." Eastreach smelled of coal smoke and thawing mud. The city crouched low against the wind, its timbered houses and slate roofs dark with damp. Evelyn had been here only once before, but she remembered the harbour, a sprawl of docks that drew merchants and mercenaries in equal measure. They entered through the north gate under grey skies. Caelum kept his hood low, Rowan bundled in Lyra's arms. Every few steps, Evelyn caught him scanning the street corners, watching shadows as if they might grow teeth. "We'll need an inn with a back exit," Evelyn said. "And quiet neighbours. Or deaf ones," Lyra added. They found a narrow building near the harbour, its sign faded to a ghost of painted waves. The innkeeper barely looked up from his ledger when Evelyn paid for 2 adjoining rooms. Inside, the air was warmer, though it carried the scent of old ale and damp wool. Thank you for listening. If this story touched your heart, give it a like and subscribe for more beautiful tales. Tap the next thumbnail to continue your journey.